Okay, beautiful. So, hello. Tell people out there why they might enjoy your film, Rabbit Trap.
Oof. Hi, nice to meet you, Michael. Um, why might they enjoy it? I think that's a great question. This film is really a particular movie. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Have you
I've seen
managed to
it.
watch it through?
I've
Yeah, okay,
seen the
cool.
whole thing, start to
Great.
finish.
Okay, great. By the way, I love this. I love the name of your YouTube channel, Mystic and Severe. I think
Thank
that's
you, sir.
great.
Thank
I
you.
think when I read that, I thought, oh yeah, that's hopefully that's the kind of person that will get what I'm putting out there. I think the movie is made for it's definitely it's a mystical film, I think. We tried to make something that used structures and rules that were more aligned with mystical ways of storytelling, things like fairy tales and myth, um, dream logic, and kind of Jungian archetypes. It's a movie that is it's kind of a horror film, kinda, but it's more of a film about delicate moves between the unconscious and the conscious and the physical and the immaterial. And it's a movie that I think is for anyone who's kind of a introverted, freaky little goblin person that kind of knows what it means to have social anxiety and to like strange textures and weird sounds. And I think this movie is for people who want a film that's very tactile but also very mysterious. Um, I don't
Love
want to
that.
say who. I don't
Right.
know. Who do you think the film is? Who do you think the film is for?
I think you know your audience. I think you laid it out there. But I think what's interesting about your answer to the question is how it leaves questions open, and how
Mm.
maybe people want to find out more, and you're not revealing the whole thing. You don't want to give away. You want to give some sizzle. You don't want to give away the whole steak, and I respect that. And yeah, I would say it's it's an offbeat film. It's if you want something a little bizarre and um low key, like a strange chamber drama. That's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, because it's just three people in a camp in a cottage deep in the Welsh countryside, dealing with, working with analog sound recording equipment and marching through the marshes and like it's a film that's as much about mud and moss and algae and mushrooms as it is about the psychological kind of turmoil of this little makeshift family unit. Um, yeah,
Oh,
chamber drama is
okay.
good.
Yeah,
I
chamber
like
drama is
it's like a
good.
psychedelic like a psychedelic chamber drama.
What
That
about
was the
folk
hope.
horror? Would you take that label?
I'll take it. I'll
Yeah.
take it. Um, I'll take it. I mean, there's a lot of folk horror films that I love, and this film is very in. It's kind of there's a lot of Welsh folklore embedded into this movie. I mean, I'm a research nerd, and I loved digging for digging into kind of old reports of fairy sightings and fairy hearings in Welsh history. And I really wanted to look at what does it mean when people encounter the fairies. And when a British person talks about fairies, or especially a Welsh person, we don't mean like Tinkerbell kind of little children with wings. We mean more like goblins, more like kind of nature beings that are sometimes very mischievous, sometimes very helpful, sometimes very cruel. And these are beings who are more likely to like they're not going to like grant you a wish. They're more likely to kind of break into your house in the middle of the night and ransack your fridge and eat all your cheese and piss all over your furniture. And they're kind of like little, no, they're like kind of mischievous, naughty, selfish, greedy little people with their own. Anyway, the back history of Welsh folk fairies is really interesting to me, and I wanted to make a film that represented the essence of those folk tales, not just to kind of present Welsh folk beings or fairy beings as a villain or as monsters to be overcome. I wanted to look at, well, what does it mean to be a fairy? What does it mean to be a little being that lives in the woods and has to remain in hiding for most of your life because man has come through with his great machine of civilization and has wiped out most of your habitat? What does it mean to be um, a secretive being? And is it lonely? I wondered, do the fairies long the companionship? What if they get very curious about people? Um, so and I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there is the third character in the film is pretty early on. You pretty quickly start to suspect that this third character, this child, might not be entirely of this world. That maybe they're a kind of a boundary being, someone who can move between worlds, or maybe they're entirely of a different world. And I love that ambiguity in characters, or I love that a character can be two things, that they can be of one world and also of another. And that bridge creates great problems for those of us who are cemented in one reality. Um,
How did you get into this Welsh
that's
folklore? How did you get into that?
For me, it's been there since I was a kid, since before I could talk. I mean, my dad's Welsh, mum's English, and we I we would go and do trips over to Wales and visit my grandparents and explore the woods and go to museums. And some of the earliest books I ever read were uh, illustrated encyclopedias of British fairies. The most famous one is from 1986. It's called Fairies, spelled Faeries, by Brian Froud. Do you know Brian Froud?
No.
He's the design. He's a Cornish illustrator and film designer, and he designed The Dark Crystal
Oh
and
my God,
Labyrinth.
really?
Yeah, so
Oh, whoa.
he's the visionary behind the Jim Henson idea of goblins and fairies in that realm. And he has these amazing illustrated books about fairies where they're presented as part of, they're like little encyclopedias. And as a kid, I read them and it's like, oh, okay, well, so there are pixies. And it says, well, be careful because they're quite cantankerous. They're a bit kind of, they can get really snippy if you use the wrong language. Next page, it's about banshees and, these kind of screaming beings. And I read those at a time in my childhood where the realm of empirical reality and the imagination was very blurry still, you know? It was like, okay, Father Christmas and fairies, they're all in the realm of like probably real, kind of real, you know? And that went in deep for me, and I've remained fascinated with them. Um, yeah, that's how it started for me, and I'm still trying to figure out why I find them so fascinating. I think they have something to teach us about being people.
Well, I think Dark Crystal's one of the films with the most arresting images I can think of. I
Yep.
recently rewatched it with a friend, and oh my God, we
Oh
were
yeah,
glued to the screen. Yeah, I recently
it's
just got
amazing, isn't it?
a VHS of it. It's a good time, and
Great.
I think you are like transmitting that vibe into this, but just like on a low key
I hope
level.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I think if people, because Dark Crystal is a great, for me, is a big reference point for for this movie because it presents a vision of the world where magic is just part of nature, and you don't always understand it, just like we don't understand all the mechanisms of nature. Um, and there's a kind of a melancholy and a longing and a kind of a darkness, in the world, in Dark Crystal, but it's also kind of cozy, it's like a lovely kind of, it's a really like cozy melancholy. And I love those
Right.
kind of movies. And I tried to achieve that with Rabbit Trap. I think if people are on that wavelength of Dark Crystal, then I think Rabbit Trap will be for them.
I love that. I love that. And I also got a knife in the water vibe. And I
Yeah,
was
man.
wondering, yeah, tell me
Big
about
reference. Yeah.
Polanski and what that movie meant for you personally.
Great. Well done with picking that up for sure. So when I was writing the movie, I I kind of, as a writer, I thought, well, I would basically want to write my own favorite film. And I was like, what is my favorite film going to look like? It would have elements of fairy lore and fantasy and kind of natural magic like Dark Crystal. Um, but then also, as a writer who's interested in horror, I had to ask myself, what am I afraid of? Like, what do I really struggle with? And the thing that I really struggle with is psychological coercion. When
Mm.
people when people are more socially adept than you, it's terrifying. When someone can come into your life and they know how to manipulate you, or they know how to throw you off balance
Mm.
and to get their way, I find that really unsettling and scary, and something I've struggled with throughout my life. Um, and Knife in the Water, I think, does that beautifully. We've got this couple on this, holiday, and this hitchhiker they pick up, he unsettles and unbalances their relationship. And the three of them then get engaged in this little quiet psychological warfare where each of them wants to be loved and needed by the other. And they undermine each other and they try to seduce each other. And there's all these little plays, which I just find so captivating to watch. I find it it's erotic in a way, but it's also really unsettling because there are games at play, psychological games. And that's something I love about Knife in the Water. And I wanted to put that into the film as well, is to
Uh,
look at three characters and how they can play off each other and they can bring out good qualities, but also bring out the darkness in each other.
I love that. I'm glad that I was right about that.
You were
Sometimes,
bang on the money, bang on the
yeah,
money.
sometimes
Yeah.
I mean, you go out on a limb when you make suggestions like that. Or
Mm.
I'm wondering though, how important was it for the main characters to be musicians, and what is the scariest track you've ever heard?
Oof, good question. That the second one's fun. It was really important that they're musicians. Once I clocked that as a writer, it's kind of the way I wrote this movie was asking myself a lot of questions. Like I sort of, it's almost like automatic writing or kind of journaling or something. I'm typing really fast to myself. Okay, what are you afraid of? Well, it's psychological coercion and blah, blah, blah. And why are you afraid of that? It's like a little therapy session. And as I uncover the film and uncover what the plot's going to be, sound kept coming up as a very important element. Um, because for a lot of reasons. But I found that there's a very direct correlation between sound and consent.
Mm,
That this film is, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but the film is in a lot of ways about a man who's trying to deal with parts of himself, something in his past, or there's a story he's telling himself of who he is. There's a feeling in him of who he is, and that was put in him at a young age against his will. And now, as an adult, that's coming back out again, And I think sound has a direct correlation to that because there's a line early in the film where Daphne, who's the musician, the real genius of the couple, she says that with your eyes you enter the world, and with your ears the world enters you, right? Because you can choose what to look at, but sound doesn't require you to choose it. Sound will just come in from, like, right now. There's a dog outside barking. And it's just coming into my body, and I start to feel a bit more tense, you know? And just the sound of the dog barking makes me more tense. It doesn't ask my permission. It goes in and it starts messing with your emotions. And I think sound is really mystical, has a mystical power in that way. Um,
okay. All right. Well, I
and then
really
the
appreciate your.
scariest,
Oh,
oh, you got to go. Oh, yeah, out
I
of
gotta
time.
go. I gotta go. They told
Oh,
me,
no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I really appreciate your time. What's the final thought you want to end this interview with?
Um, if people are going to watch the movie, I think they should also listen to the movie. That's the main thing. We always use that word. Watch the movie. Watch the movie. Have you watched this movie? It's like, no, listen to this movie. Like, get the best possible speakers or the best possible headphones and lean forward and pay attention to the details because we designed the movie in a way where it needs to be listened to as much as it needs to be watched. That'd be my advice for anyone who's interested in watching and listening to Rabbit Trap.
Okay, they're telling me I've got a couple more minutes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, because
But
I'm not in a big rush.
well, oh,
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
okay. What do you think of the term elevated horror?
Yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah, I don't love
Yeah,
it
I don't
either.
like. No,
Yeah.
I don't love it. I don't think horror needs any elevation. And but making Rabbit Trap and getting the reactions to it because this movie has really split audiences. I mean, I also
Hmm.
wanted to make a movie that my favorite movies really split people actually, but then to have done one that splits people at the beginning, it didn't feel very good. Like it turns out deep down, I want everyone to like what I do, but that's just not going to happen. And I'm now getting more comfortable with that. And yeah, and part of that was the reactions has been about expectations of what horror means. And I think this. separating of there's elevated horror and there's like un what's the opposite of that? Like base kind of horror. It
Well,
gets kind of gross. And I've also started to realize that what this movie is isn't even really horror. And I think that's
mm,
kind of setting up the wrong expectation. I think this is more of a fairy tale. And I don't think
mm,
that there are many films that do fairy tales anymore. And if because fairy tales also have a different structure to other kind of movies. They will take you off in a on a strange path down the woods with kind of magical logic, and it might not bring you home again. And I would love more fairy tale films personally. As much as I love horror, I kind of want to get away from that whole conversation because it's not even what I do exactly. I'm
yeah.
more interested in fable, myth, fairy tale. Um, does that make sense? What do you think
No,
about
no, it
that?
makes sense. I think it makes sense. I like in terms of the term. I think it's mean and it's exclusionary and it's silly
Mm,
because it
yeah,
means like John Carpenter's The Thing is not an elevated horror movie because it doesn't deal with generational trauma, and
dumb.
that is ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for sure.
and then I think if someone were to take your movie, I could see them saying, well, that's elevated horror as a way of
Mm,
saying, like, I don't understand what this movie's trying to do. And kind
mm,
of, it's like when people like often use the word pretentious, these are
yeah.
pretentious, but
Mm.
often when people use the term pretentious, they're kind of snitching on themselves. They just say that they don't really get it or what the intention of the author really was.
That's true. And also, like, no, I don't know any artists who are purposely trying to be pretentious. And like every filmmaker goes through a very delicate balancing act, and it's very conscious and about, for example, exposition. How much do you explain? How much do you not explain? Because if you over explain, the movie feels like condescending and kind of dumb. And then you've got no, as an audience, there's no joy in piecing things together and enjoying the unravel. But then if you under explain things, a movie can feel totally alien and there's nothing to engage with. Um, and that balance is something that is very personal to each audience member and also very personal to each filmmaker. And I think that's part of the pretentious conversation is like it's just highlighting, oh, well, the balance of exposition didn't land for me as as an individual,
Right.
but some people it would land. Um,
For sure. Sometimes
yeah,
things don't work. And
there's that too.
some things are overly ambitious.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. Anyways, what did you use for the fake marijuana in this movie?
What did we use? It wasn't marijuana. I mean, all the fake cigarettes are kind of herbal. They're herbal cigarettes.
Okay.
So, I'm not entirely sure. Why did it look really real to you? The color of the smoke?
No, no, I thought it was fake weed.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was almost definitely fake weed and real mushrooms, but fake weed.
Okay, one more question. Tell me about your Sundance experience with the film. That must have been fun.
It was pretty intense. I mean, that was my first film, and premiering at Sundance. We had a really good slot, like a Friday night in the Eccles, which is a really big theater, and it was really overwhelming for me. I don't really remember that much of it. It was kind of an out of body experience. Um, uh, yeah, it was bizarre. I mean, because this is quite a making a movie can be quite a lonely journey. I mean, this was 7 years of my life put into it, and probably 4 years of it was alone of just writing, and then the edit can also be quite lonely. Um, so Sundance was bizarre because suddenly my home saw your movie. Whereas Sundance, that happens, and it was very. I think, are we back? I think we froze for a bit.
Yeah, we froze for a
Are we
second.
here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It was very it was in a ways it was very overwhelming and also very cool for the filmmaking to suddenly become a social activity because
Yeah,
it's so unsocial making a movie. It's kind of
right.
antisocial behavior, and
Uh,
then suddenly it becomes social, and then like you're surrounded by people who want to ask you questions, and then you have to talk about it and do things like this, and then everyone has an opinion, and it becomes a collective social experience, which is
It's
really
no longer
weird.
your movie. Now it's the public's.
Yeah, I know. And that's really
Yeah,
strange. It's a weird
yeah.
process to go on. And any filmmakers listening to this, you know, if you're about to make your first film, I think that's something that is to be aware of, that suddenly your very private, personal expression suddenly becomes public property and everyone has a say about it. And it's quite, uh, it can be really encouraging and it can be really discouraging. It can be really, uh, it was a lot. My Sundance experience was a lot.
I don't
Yeah.
doubt it. All right, well,
Yeah.
we had to do a hard stop now, but can you
Okay.
do me a favor?
Sure.
I want you to enjoy life. I missed that, but sorry, that
Oh,
was
hang
a
on.
glitch.
I'm back now. Hello,
Yeah,
hello.
yeah. What's your response to my
There was a glitch. Yeah.
I said I want you to enjoy life. That's the favor I want you to do for me.
Oh, that's nice of you.
My pleasure.
I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
All right, just do it for me at least.
Okay, thanks. You too, Michael. You too.